Demonetization, I think, was not a well planned, well thought out, useful exercise. And I told the government that when the idea was first mooted. It seemed to me that people would find their way around. For those who don't know, India sort of demonetized the 500 and the 1,000 rupee note. Now, the 500 rupee note is $7.50, the 1,000 rupee note is $15. So this was currency actually used. And at the time of demonetization, this was 87.5% of the currency value. Now, any macroeconomist or monetary economist would say when you're demonetizing 87.5% of the currency, better make sure you've printed 87.5% or pretty much close to that. India went into it without having done that. So it had a negative economic impact, but also the idea was that somehow people who had money stored in their basements without having paid taxes on it would sort of overnight see religion, come to the government and say, sorry, we were hiding this stuff, let me pay taxes on it. That was the, to some extent, naive view. Anybody who knows India knows that very quickly we find ways around the system. And the more cynical view, which was the right view, was people would set up as brokers and basically take 10% to convert black to white. And essentially all the money that was demonetized came back into the system, and it didn't have the direct effect that was sought, that a lot of people would fess up and pay taxes. There may be some longer term impact that people think that if this sort of thing happens, that the government is serious about collecting taxes, there may be greater tax payments, but we still have to see strong evidence that is true. So the negative economic impact, people not having currency, not being able to pay, economic activity plummeting, especially in the informal sector, that happened. A lot of people probably lost their jobs. We don't count that well because it's the informal sector. The positive impacts are out there in the future. We have no idea whether they will be important. To my mind, it was not a policy that was useful at that time. We will have to ask what the trend growth was and what happened and what the lost growth is. This is an exercise that can easily be done. And most estimates of the cost of demonetization vary between 1.5% to 2% of GDP. So I don't think there's a huge amount of dispute about that. I don't even think the government necessarily challenges that. And it would be a really die-hard government advocate who would say that the growth benefits of demonetization were immediate. I think most people would say they're coming, the supporters of the move. That is coming by changing the incentive to pay taxes. And I would say, yeah, we have to wait and see whether that in fact is true.